A millionaire CEO pretends to be poor on his daughter's blind date, but one wrong move changes everything. They say fate has a way of finding you, but sometimes it doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it wears scuffed boots, sits at the wrong table, and says sorry with a napkin instead of flowers. He didn't mean to lie. She didn't mean to care. But in a little diner where nothing ever happened, everything changed. Because a man who had everything pretended to be nothing. And a woman who had nothing left gave him everything without knowing who he was, the name she almost forgot. The rain had started an hour before she arrived, the kind of soft, persistent drizzle that turned New York City into a place that whispered instead of shouted. Emily Lane sat in the far corner booth of Rudy's Diner, a chipped porcelain coffee mug cradled between her fingers. Her coat dripped onto the vinyl seat. The booth was cold, so was the coffee, but neither of them bothered her as much as the empty space across from her. 35 minutes late, and not even a text. Her friend Kayla had promised this one would be different. He's not a model or a millionaire, but he's got a great personality, she'd said, which Emily had learned usually meant he has strong opinions about Joe Rogan and doesn't believe in therapy. Outside, the city kept moving. Inside, time felt like it had stalled between old jukebox songs and the hum of the overhead lights. She stirred her coffee slowly, watching the creamer swirl into galaxies she'd never touch. Her phone buzzed. A text. Not from him. You better be falling in love right now. Kayla. Emily didn't answer. She glanced up just as the door chimed open. A man stepped in, brushing rain from his hair with one hand and gripping a little girl's hand with the other. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a faded work jacket and jeans that looked like they'd seen more dirt than daylight. The little girl looked up at him and whispered something. He smiled, tired, real, soft. Emily looked away. It wasn't her date. Her guy was named Michael, or maybe Matt? She honestly couldn't remember anymore. She just knew he wasn't a dad, in boots with a 4-year-old in mismatched socks. But then, the man walked over to her table. Sorry we're late, he said, his voice deep and a little breathless. Traffic was a mess, and someone insisted on changing her socks twice. Emily blinked. I'm sorry, what? Before she could say anything else, the little girl scooted into the booth beside her and grinned. Hi, I'm Lily. The man hesitated, then slid into the seat across from her. His eyes searched her face, and something passed between them. Confusion, amusement, maybe even fear. Emily sat frozen, her heart tapping unevenly. Wait, she said slowly. You're Michael? He nodded a beat too late. Yeah, that's me. Her eyebrows arched. You brought your daughter? Lily beamed. I like pancakes. Emily gave the man, Michael, a look that was part disbelief, part curiosity. He looked uncomfortable, but not dangerous. Not trying to impress her. No watch, no cologne, no smug smile. Just a man in damp clothes and tired eyes. I figured, he said quietly. If I was going to meet someone real, I should show up as who I really am. Emily tilted her head. That's either brave or ridiculous. Maybe both, he said, shrugging. The silence between them didn't stretch awkwardly. It settled. Lily sneezed, and Emily instinctively reached for a napkin, brushing the child's small hand. The moment was so normal, it startled her. They ordered food, pancakes for Lily, a burger for Michael. Emily stuck with her half-dead coffee. She still wasn't sure who this man was. He hadn't offered her flowers or compliments. He hadn't even made a joke. But he listened, and when she talked about how the library where she worked had laid off 2 assistants that week, he didn't nod absent-mindedly or check his phone. He just listened. Like it mattered. Lily told her jokes, the kind only a child could find funny. Why did the pancake cross the road? She asked, wide-eyed. Emily smiled. To get to the syrup. Michael groaned softly. I warned you. Emily laughed, and didn't realize until afterward that it had been a while since she'd done that without forcing it. When the meal was over, Nathan, no, Michael, paid in cash. No last names were exchanged, just a soft look as he stood, holding Lily's hand. "Maybe we'll see you again," he said, not quite a question. Emily smiled at the little girl. "Only if she brings more pancake jokes." "I got more," Lily chirped. Then they were gone. Emily sat for a while after that, watching the rain trail down the glass. Her phone buzzed again. Kayla. She stared at the screen, then slowly typed, "I think I just had dinner with someone I wasn't supposed to meet. And I don't know his real name." Across the street, the man stood outside his car. Lily's hand tugged at his jacket. "Daddy," she asked quietly, "that wasn't the right lady, was it?" He looked down the street toward the diner's glowing sign. The booth she had been sitting in was empty now. "No," he said, voice soft. "But maybe she was the right one anyway." And for the first time in a very long time, Nathan Cole, billionaire, widower, man who'd forgotten how to be seen, didn't want to disappear. He wanted to go back. Chapter 1. A Man with No Card. The rain had tapered off by morning, but the city still wore yesterday's gray like a tired coat. Emily Lane stood behind the front desk at Ridgewood Public Library, stamping return dates on worn covers with practiced ease. Her fingers moved, but her mind was somewhere else. Somewhere far from the scent of paper and the hum of fluorescent lights. She kept thinking about him, the man from the diner, the one who wasn't her blind date. Michael, or whatever his real name was, hadn't tried to flirt. He hadn't bragged about his job or tried to impress her with stories of startups and real estate. Instead, he'd apologized for being late, admitted he'd burned toast that morning, and let his daughter tell pancake jokes over a plate of syrup-soaked sweetness. He'd sat across from her like a man trying to remember how to breathe. Like a man who didn't expect kindness and didn't know what to do when he got it. And now, 2 days later, she couldn't stop wondering who he really was. Her curiosity annoyed her. She didn't do this. She didn't linger over almosts. She didn't let maybe men with fake names and big brown eyes follow her into her thoughts like this. "Miss Lane," a timid voice interrupted. Emily blinked. A boy no older than 9 held up a stack of picture books, eyes wide behind thick glasses. "Do you have more about space?" She smiled, softening. "We've got a whole shelf. Come on, I'll show you." 15 minutes later, she was kneeling beside the astronomy section, helping him pick between 2 titles, when the library's heavy glass door opened. Emily didn't look up right away. It wasn't until she heard Lily's voice, sweet, unmistakable, that her breath caught. "Daddy, there's the pancake lady." Emily turned. There he was. Same boots, same tired eyes, same hesitant smile. Only this time, there was no mistake. He wasn't late for a blind date. He had come here for her. "Hi," he said, pushing his hands into his coat pockets like he didn't trust them. "Sorry, this is weird." "I know this is weird." Emily stood slowly. Her heart was doing that uneven thing again. "Do you make a habit of finding women your daughter likes and showing up unannounced?" He winced. "Only the ones who don't run when she starts listing every breakfast food she's ever loved." Lily waved from behind his legs. "She said I could tell more jokes." Emily crossed her arms, trying not to smile. "You're persistent." Nathan looked down at his daughter. She asked if we could come back. "Said maybe you'd be here." "I work here." "I know," he said quickly. "Not in a creepy way. I saw your name on the library card return. I figured, one librarian in Ridgewood." Emily studied him. "So your name's not Michael?" "No," he said, almost sheepish. "It's Nathan. Nathan Cole." Something about the way he said it, like it hurt to admit, made her pause. "I like Nathan better," she said. Lily cheered. "Me too." Nathan's eyes crinkled. "We were just going to stop in for a book, or a joke, or both." Emily's heart softened, but her voice stayed steady. "You do know how strange this is, right?" "I do," he said, "but I haven't laughed like that in a long time, and Lily, she hasn't asked for someone twice since her mom died." Silence stretched between them. Honest. Uncomfortable. Real. Emily knelt down, meeting Lily's gaze. "Want to help me shelve some books?" Lily nodded, delighted. "I'm good at stacking." Nathan looked like he might say something important, but stopped himself. Instead, he followed them down the aisle, walking quietly, watching as his daughter placed each book with unnecessary ceremony. Emily didn't ask questions. Not yet. She didn't ask why a man who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks suddenly appeared at her work. She didn't ask where Lily's mother was, or what Nathan really did for a living, or what kind of man pretended to be someone else just to feel normal. Instead, she handed Lily another book. "Pancakes and Pluto," she read aloud. "Perfect." Lily beamed. "I love this one." Emily glanced at Nathan. "So, what exactly do you do?" He hesitated, then offered a version of the truth. "Consulting, some tech stuff. I'm in between projects right now." A half lie, but less of one than before. Emily nodded. "Must be nice, taking days off to wander libraries with your daughter?" "It's not always like this," he said, his voice quiet. "I just wanted something different." She looked at him, really looked at him. His jacket was frayed at the sleeves, his beard was a day too long, but there was something in his eyes, something lonely, something real. "You seem like someone who's trying to remember who he used to be," she said softly. He didn't flinch, didn't deny it, just looked at her and said, "Yeah, I think I am." They stood like that for a moment, two strangers wrapped in something that wasn't quite friendship, but couldn't be called anything else yet. Then Lily yawned dramatically. "I'm hungry. Do they have pancakes here?" Emily laughed. "Only books about them." Nathan straightened. "There's a place around the corner. Real syrup, blueberry toppings. We could, if you're not busy." Emily hesitated. She didn't do this. She didn't say yes to almosts, but this wasn't almost. This was something else. "I get off at 5, she said, her voice light. "Don't be late. 3 nights a week." There was never a plan, never a text or a phone call. It just happened. Monday he showed up. She was shelving in the children's section. Lily ran in first, nearly knocking over a cardboard display of ocean creatures. Emily looked up and smiled before she could stop herself. Wednesday they returned. He said they were just passing by. Emily didn't believe him, but she didn't ask him to leave either. By Friday, it had a rhythm. They didn't meet up. They found each other. Always around 5:15 daybreak, always as the sun began to filter golden light through the tall, dusty windows of Ridgewood Library. Lily called them pancake evenings, though no pancakes were involved anymore. Just dog-eared books, whispered giggles, and quiet, unspoken belonging. Nathan never brought a last name, but he brought something else: presence. He showed up, and after a while, Emily stopped wondering why. The third week, it rained again. Nathan arrived soaked. His coat clung to his shoulders, his hair curled at the edges. Lily wore a tiny yellow raincoat with frogs on the pockets and carried a paper bag like it held something sacred. Emily spotted them near the reading nook. She leaned over the counter and grinned. "Back again?" Nathan shrugged. "She demanded it." "I brought you something," Lily said, holding up the paper bag. Emily raised an eyebrow. "Is it a joke?" Lily beamed. "Better. It's pancakes from our kitchen. Daddy helped, but I did the sprinkles." Emily took the warm bundle. It smelled like sugar and cinnamon and childhood. "Thank you," she whispered, and suddenly her voice didn't sound like hers. It sounded like someone who hadn't received a gift in a long time. Nathan didn't say anything, but something softened in his expression. Later, while Lily traced shapes into fogged-up windows, Nathan leaned on the bookshelf across from Emily. She was restocking fairy tale collections. He watched her hands. How carefully she handled each one. Like they mattered. "So, Lily said your job is book princess," he said, folding his arms. Emily smirked. "She's not wrong. I reign over overdue fees and talking dragons." "Impressive resume." She shot him a glance. "What about you? You ever going to tell me what it is you actually do, besides bring smuggled pancakes into public libraries?" He hesitated. "I used to build things. Software. Systems. Now I mostly sit in meetings where everyone pretends they're not bored out of their minds." She nodded slowly. "So you're one of those tech guys?" He looked mildly offended. "Hey, I shower and make eye contact." She laughed. It was a real laugh, not polite, not guarded. "You don't seem like someone who belongs in a boardroom," she said after a moment. He looked at her then, really looked. "Sometimes I don't feel like I belong anywhere." Emily's chest ached. Not because of the words, but because of the way he said them. Soft, honest, like a man confessing something no one had asked. She nodded. "I know the feeling." It became a pattern. 3 nights a week, they met. Never officially. Always by accident. Always at the same diner afterward. Lily ordered chocolate milk and told riddles no one understood. Nathan tried not to smile when Emily teased him about being the only person she knew who burned soup. And Emily, well, she found herself laughing again. At nothing. At everything. At him. One night, he asked her where she lived. "Queens," she said, sipping her coffee. "Tiny walk-up, 5th floor, no elevator, but the light in the morning is perfect." "You live alone?" She nodded. "It's just me. Used to be my mom's place. After she passed, I stayed." He didn't press. The next night, she asked him about Lily's mom. He looked away. "Car accident 3 years ago. Lily was barely out of diapers." Emily didn't speak. She didn't have to. Sometimes the right silence is the loudest kind of love. Another evening, as the diner emptied around them and Lily dozed in the booth, Emily traced her finger along the rim of her mug. "Why me?" she asked quietly. Nathan looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I wasn't your date, I wasn't part of your plan. You sat at the wrong table, and now you're here, 3 nights a week." "Why?" Nathan didn't answer right away. He looked at Lily, at the pancake crumbs on the table, at the woman sitting across from him, tired and real and not trying to be anything she wasn't. And he said, "Because I've spent most of my life building things. Companies. Structures. Names. But nothing ever made me feel like this." "Like what?" "Like it might all be worth it if I just sit still for once." Emily blinked, her breath caught. That was the thing about Nathan Cole. He didn't say much, but when he did, it landed like gravity. When they said goodnight that evening, Nathan walked her to the subway. Lily was already half asleep in his arms. "I'll see you around," she said. "I hope so," he replied, but something in his eyes looked scared. Like he didn't know if hope would be enough. The next morning, Emily Googled him. Nathan Cole, handyman, Queens, single dad, brown eyes. She got one musician in Ohio and an ad for ductwork repair. No hits, no past, no breadcrumbs. Just him. And for some strange reason, she let it go. She didn't dig deeper. She didn't want to know who he was on paper. She just wanted to know who he kept showing up as. 3 nights a week, the girl who didn't flirt. Nathan Cole had been stared at his entire adult life. Admired, studied, measured, sometimes feared. But never like this. Never the way Emily Lane looked at him, like he was invisible and seen at the same time. Like she was trying to read between the lines of a book everyone else skimmed for the headline. It unnerved him. It comforted him. And that was the problem. He didn't know what to do with comfort. By the end of the 4th week, they had an unofficial booth at Rudy's Diner, the one near the window, with a crack in the laminate and a view of a city that never asked who you were if you just kept moving. They didn't make reservations, but somehow the booth was always waiting. Lily would slide in first, Emily second, Nathan last, after he'd shaken the rain off his shoulders or dust from his coat, or whatever remnants of his other life still clung to him. He'd learned little things about Emily by then. That she never put sugar in her coffee, but always stirred it like she might. That she owned only one umbrella and always forgot it. That she wore the same necklace, a small silver star, every day, and touched it when she got nervous. That she was trying not to care about him, but she did, he could tell, in the quiet, in the way her eyes softened around Lily, then darted away when they met his. And maybe that's what pulled him closer. She didn't flirt. She noticed. One evening, Lily fell asleep early, curled into Emily's side, a tiny arm flung across her lap like she belonged there. Emily didn't move. Nathan watched her, sitting across the booth, untouched coffee going cold. "She never does that," he murmured, "not with strangers." Emily looked down at the sleeping girl. Maybe I'm not a stranger. He swallowed. Maybe you never were. That silence between them, it wasn't awkward anymore. It was familiar. Like they'd had this conversation in another life. Or maybe in a dream he'd once convinced himself not to believe in. They talked that night. For real. About the version of themselves they didn't usually let anyone meet. Emily told him about her mom, how she'd passed from a rare illness when Emily was 23, and how she still reached for her number when things went wrong. About the job she lost last year and the way she'd smiled through it. About how she used to dream of illustrating children's books, but now just doodled in the margins of overdue slip pads. Nathan listened, not like someone waiting to speak, like someone who needed to hear it to breathe. He didn't tell her everything, not yet, but he offered pieces. About late nights in glass towers where everyone called him Sir, but no one knew he hadn't slept in months. About the accident, his wife, the silence that followed, the press, the charity galas, the cold, all of it. I used to feel proud, he said. Now I just feel preserved. Like a statue, Emily said quietly. He nodded. Exactly. She traced the rim of her glass. Maybe that's why you sat at the wrong table. He looked up. She didn't smile. She just said, because statues don't move unless something shakes them loose. He wanted to kiss her. In that moment, with the city outside glazed in rain, and Lily breathing soft against her sweater. He wanted to lean across the table and say, "You woke me up." But he didn't. Because this wasn't a movie. This was real. And he didn't want to ruin the only real thing he'd touched in years. The next night, he didn't come. Emily tried not to notice. She walked past the diner twice, pretending she wasn't checking. Told herself he was busy. He had a life, meetings, deadlines. She didn't owe him anything. He didn't owe her anything. Still, she sat at the booth alone, just for a minute, just to see if maybe, just maybe, he might walk in. He didn't. Nathan sat in his penthouse office, the city spread beneath him like a glittering secret. His phone buzzed with meetings, messages, a board vote he was supposed to attend. He ignored them. Instead, he sat in the dark and listened to Lily sleep, and asked himself a question that scared him more than anything. When did pretending stop feeling like pretending? The next day, he went back. Emily was at the library desk, scribbling a small cartoon animal in the margin of a donation form. She looked up when he walked in. No words, no accusations, no cool greeting. Just, "You're late." He smiled. Was the booth still open? It always is. That evening, he brought her a small notebook. Brown leather, unused, elegant. "For your stories," he said. Emily opened it, flipped through the blank pages. She didn't say thank you, she didn't say anything. She just looked at him in a way that made his throat go dry. Like he was enough. Later, while Lily played with sugar packets and Emily sketched in the notebook, Nathan found himself staring at her hands. They were small, no nail polish, a smudge of graphite on the edge of her thumb. The offer. And he thought, she could have looked at me like I was worth something, even if I had nothing. And he was right. Because she already was. Chapter 4. No last names. By the 5th week, Emily knew 2 things for certain. Nathan Cole wasn't who he said he was, and she didn't want to know who he really was. Because for the first time in years, the truth didn't feel urgent. It felt like a risk she wasn't ready to take. He still hadn't offered a last name. Not even casually. In this city, names carried weight. They opened doors, closed others, and filled Google search bars faster than you could say, "It's complicated." But Nathan never used his. Not at the library, not at the diner, not even when they filled out Lily's name on the back of a placemat coloring sheet. Emily had scribbled Lily C out of instinct. Nathan hadn't corrected her. That night, she typed Nathan Cole into her browser, 5 different ways. Nothing. No LinkedIn, no business profile, no trace. Except a YouTube channel about fixing pipes and a Nathaniel Cole from Kentucky who raised llamas? She closed the tab. Let it be, she told herself. Some people are better in pieces. They still met 3 nights a week. They still didn't make plans. And that was the most terrifying part. Because somewhere between the pancakes and library aisles, she'd stopped being a woman trying to survive a failed blind date and started being the girl who waited for someone, without admitting she was waiting. That Wednesday, the library was quiet. A storm had rolled in, thunder low and grumbling over Queens like a held breath. Nathan showed up, soaked again. No umbrella, no coat. Lily wore a towel like a cape and declared herself Queen of Lightning. Emily raised an eyebrow as they entered. "Do you have something against umbrellas?" "I keep forgetting them," he said, brushing water from his sleeves. "Do you also forget your last name?" she asked lightly. It slipped out before she could pull it back. Nathan froze. For a second, he looked like a man cornered. Then he smiled, slow and unconvincing. "It's just a name," he said. "Right," Emily murmured, turning away. "Names mean nothing." But that night, when they sat in the diner and he didn't touch his coffee, Emily couldn't stop staring at the hands that had fixed her wobbly chair 3 days ago. The same hands that still trembled slightly when Lily leaned on him without asking. And she realized he wasn't lying to hurt her. He was hiding to survive. After Lily had fallen asleep, sprawled across 2 seats and clutching a syrup packet like treasure, Nathan finally spoke. "You want to know what I do?" Emily didn't answer. He looked down at his hands. "I build things, or I used to. Then I sold what I built. Then I lost the woman I built it all for." Silence. I tried to keep going like nothing happened. Boardrooms, investors, private jets. I was a headline with a child and a frozen smile. Emily looked at him softly. "So you made yourself disappear." "I tried," he said, until Lily asked if I remembered how to laugh, and I couldn't answer. Her voice cracked. "So you came to a diner and sat at the wrong table?" He nodded. "And found someone who didn't ask what I owned, just if I wanted coffee?" They didn't speak the rest of the night. When they parted, Emily touched his sleeve. "You don't owe me a last name," she said, "but if you ever decide to tell me, make sure it's real." "He will," he said, but he didn't. 2 days later, the photo surfaced. A blurry shot of real Nathan, walking through Midtown in jeans and boots, Lily on his shoulders, a balloon in one hand, her laughter frozen in the air. The headline: "Is billionaire CEO Nathan Cole hiding in plain sight?" The article was short, speculative, laced with photos from his past life, glamorous galas, charity speeches, luxury cars. Emily stared at it on her cracked phone screen. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared. Because the man in the photo wasn't the one who'd helped her reshelve books or brought her pancakes in a napkin. But it was him, and he had lied. That night, she didn't go to the diner. Nathan waited anyway. No Emily. He returned the next night. Still no sign. He asked the waitress casually. "She hasn't been in since Wednesday." He drove home in silence. Lily slept in the back seat, her head against the window. "Where's Emily?" she asked softly when they pulled into the garage. Nathan didn't answer. Because what could he say? I made her feel real, then reminded her I wasn't. At 3 a.m. he sat in his office again. And for once, he didn't look at stock reports or forecasts. He looked at the empty chair across from him and wrote. Not a text, not an email. A letter, in pen, on paper. He told her the truth. All of it. How he lost the love of his life. How he tried to fill the silence with numbers. How Lily saved him, but he still didn't know how to live. How he never meant to fall for someone at the wrong table. But somehow that was where he finally found the right place to begin. He folded the letter, sealed it, and mailed it. Chapter 5, The Photo. The envelope arrived on no return address, just her name, in handwriting so careful it trembled. Emily Lane didn't open it right away. She let it sit on her kitchen counter between a chipped mug and last week's unpaid electric bill. She made tea. She folded laundry. She stared at the window like the rain would give her a reason to forget everything that came before the photo. But she didn't forget. And eventually, the weight of it, all of it, pressed too hard against her ribs, and she opened the letter. It wasn't long. It didn't justify. It confessed. Emily, I didn't come into your life meaning to lie. I came in needing to feel like a person again, not a product, not a symbol, just someone whose name didn't open doors but maybe opened a smile. You gave me that. You and your quiet questions and your silence that never asked for more than I could give. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was afraid you'd look at me like everyone else does, like I'm something to be managed, measured. But you never did. And I was greedy for that. For you. Please know, I never meant to make a fool of you. I only meant to sit at the table you didn't know would change me. Nathan, Emily's fingers shook. Not from anger, from the ache of recognition. She had always known something didn't add up. The way he avoided specifics, the way he paid in cash, the way his eyes flickered every time she asked even a little too much. But the truth wasn't what hurt most. It was that she let herself believe the lie had nothing to do with her. That maybe, just maybe, she'd been worth telling the truth too. And she wasn't. She didn't cry. She packed the letter into a drawer, shut it like a wound, and went to work like nothing had ever happened. At the Ridgewood Library, she smiled when she shelved books. She helped toddlers with story hour crafts. She answered emails and checked out biographies, and only paused once when she found Lily's favorite cakes and Pluto. Resting on the edge of the return bin, she didn't open it. She just slipped it back into place, back where it belonged. Nathan didn't try to call, didn't send flowers, didn't show up. He just waited, because in the quiet days that followed, he finally understood. Love wasn't something you could chase, it was something you earned. In trust, in presence, in silence. And he'd broken all three. At night, Lily asked less, but she still waited for Emily. Maybe she's on vacation, Nathan offered once, weakly. Lily frowned, but we didn't say goodbye. I know, he said. And that was all he could say. The city kept moving. The gossip page dropped his photo after 3 days. No scandal, no damage control needed. Just a blurry image, a half-hearted article, and 1,000 assumptions. But Emily didn't care about the headlines. She cared about the man who sat across from her, night after night, telling her stories with no last name. The man who held her trust with both hands and let it slip like water through cracks he never admitted to having. 2 weeks passed. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, the library's front door opened, and Nathan Cole walked in, like a man entering church. Emily looked up from the desk. Her face didn't change. She didn't smile. She didn't flinch. She just stood and waited. Nathan stepped forward slowly. Hi. Hi, she replied, voice unreadable. They stood like that for a breath that felt longer than their entire story. He opened his mouth, closed it. Ben said softly, "You got the letter." She nodded. He looked down. I meant every word. Another nod. Then finally she spoke. "You lied." "I did. You made me feel like I was safe. I wanted you to be. You let me fall for someone who didn't exist." Nathan's jaw tightened. He just didn't have a last name yet. Silence. Then Emily stepped around the desk, arms crossed. "You know what hurts most?" she whispered. "It's not the lie. It's that you didn't stop when it started to matter. You kept going. You let me show up. You let Lily trust me." "I know. And you let me become part of something that wasn't even real." Nathan swallowed. "It was real to me." She met his eyes, and for the first time he saw anger flicker there. Then why wasn't I worth the truth? He didn't answer, because there was nothing left to say. That night, she walked the city alone. No destination. Hello? No umbrella. Just wind and streetlight, and the echo of her own name in places that once held his. She passed Rudy's. The booth was empty. She kept walking. Nathan watched the window for days. He didn't chase. He didn't beg. Because this time he understood. Real love doesn't demand. It waits. It listens. It rebuilds. If it's allowed. One morning, Lily padded into the kitchen, barefoot and quiet. She held a paper star Emily had once folded for her from a napkin. Will she ever come back? Nathan looked at the star, then at his daughter. I don't know, he said. And that was the most honest thing he'd said in weeks. Chapter 6. You lied to me. The Ridgewood Library was quiet that afternoon. Too quiet. It was the kind of silence that wrapped around your ribs like a memory you didn't want to feel again. Emily stood near the children's section, pretending to reorganize a shelf that didn't need reorganizing. She hadn't drawn anything in days. Her coffee tasted like cardboard. Even the sunlight through the window looked gray. And then suddenly he was there. Nathan? In the doorway, holding nothing. Wearing nothing that made him look like a CEO. Just him. Plain, tired, real. She didn't move. He walked toward her like he wasn't sure if his legs would work right. Emily, he said softly. She didn't answer. He stopped a few feet away. I needed to see you. Why? Because I owe you more than a letter? Her voice was low, flat. No? You don't. You said it all. But not to your face. Emily finally looked up. And the force of it, her eyes full of pain and something deeper than betrayal, knocked the breath from him. You lied to me, she said, no preamble. He nodded once. And you kept lying. When I opened up, when Lily did, when we laughed and shared food and told stories, you just let it happen. Like I wouldn't care. I cared, he whispered. That's why I didn't stop. Do you hear yourself? Her voice rose, raw and trembling. You cared, so you let me believe in something that wasn't real? You hid your last name like it was poison. Because it felt like it was, Nathan said, stepping forward. My name, it changes everything. It ruins things. And I didn't want it to ruin you. She recoiled. Don't put that on me. Don't act like your silence was noble. I didn't know how to stop pretending without losing you. Then maybe you never had me, she snapped. That landed. He exhaled, chest tight. I didn't mean to fall in love with you, he said finally. But I did, and I didn't know how to tell the truth without losing the only good thing I've had in years. Emily shook her head slowly. You know what the worst part is? I believed you were different. Because you weren't trying. You weren't showing off. You weren't polished. I wasn't pretending to be poor, Nathan said. I was trying to remember how to be human. You brought your daughter into that lie. I brought my daughter into the truth, he countered quietly now. Because with you, she felt safe. She laughed. She looked forward to books and pancakes and someone who didn't look at her like a project. Silence again. Not peaceful. Not warm. Just the quiet left after something breaks. Emily's hands shook. She crossed her arms, looked away, looked back. I don't care how rich you are, she said. I don't care about your suits or your skyline apartment. I cared about you. The man who said he'd burn toast. The man who brought me a notebook because he noticed I doodled when I was nervous. That's still me. She blinked. Then why do I feel like I don't know you at all? Nathan didn't follow her that day. She walked out first. Tears didn't fall until she reached the far end of the block, where no one could see. Not because she wanted to be strong, but because she didn't want to give the world the satisfaction of watching another woman unravel. She stopped answering Kayla's texts. She skipped the diner. She muted the tabloid pages. And still, every corner of her small apartment whispered his name. Lily's laughter in her memory, the notebook still untouched, the smell of maple syrup that now made her chest ache. Meanwhile, Nathan unraveled. He returned to work, sat through board meetings that felt like theater, signed contracts with hands that didn't stop shaking, smiled in photos he wouldn't remember. And every night, after Lily fell asleep, he stood by the window and tried to figure out why silence felt louder when you deserved it. He didn't call Emily, didn't beg, didn't send flowers. He just waited. Because Lily was right. Sometimes "I'm sorry" was too easy. One night, Lily asked, "Did I do something wrong?" Nathan froze by her bedroom door. "No," he said quickly, "you were perfect." "Then why doesn't Emily come anymore?" He knelt beside her bed, pulled the covers up to her chin. "She's mad at me." "Why?" "I didn't tell her the truth." Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Did Mommy say sorry before she went to the sky?" Nathan blinked, caught off guard. His voice cracked. "No, sweetheart. She didn't have time." "Then maybe you should." The next morning, Nathan picked up a pen. No PR team, no assistant, just paper and truth. He told her everything. The story behind his name, his fears, his grief, the way her voice steadied him, the way Lily reached for her like home, the way he'd watched her one night draw a star in the margin of a crumpled receipt and thought, "I want to live in that world." He wrote slowly, carefully, like it mattered. Well, Christmas did. And then he waited. Emily didn't respond right away, but she read every word, twice. And when the knock finally came on her door, she knew who it was before she even stood. She opened it slowly. There he was. No suit, no defenses, just him. The rain clung to his coat like it had the first time they met. "I got your letter," she said. He nodded, words stuck in his throat. "I meant every word," he managed. She stepped inside, looked around his place like it was unfamiliar. "Nice," she said. "I didn't want you to see it first like this." "Because it's real?" "Because it's not who I am when I'm with you." She turned to face him, eyes sharp, wounded, brave. "You think a few dinners and a sad story make you the victim here?" "No," he said. "But I didn't come to take anything from you. I came hoping you'd see something in me that I forgot was still there." Footsteps padded down the hallway. Lily, in pajamas, barefoot. She stopped when she saw Emily. "Hi," she whispered. Emily crouched. "Hey there, pancake princess." Lily launched into her arms. Nathan's voice cracked. "I don't know how to fix this, but I want to." Emily stood, still holding Lily's hand, and then stopped pretending. No more lies, no more tests, no more stories. Nathan nodded. "Deal. And stop acting like love is a problem to solve. It's a risk. It's messy. And if you're not ready for that, don't ask me to stay." "I'm ready." She studied him for a long moment. "I'm not," she said softly. Then she turned and walked out. The letter he didn't rewrite. The letter stayed folded on Emily's nightstand. Not because she hadn't read it, but because she had. Again and again, until every word lived beneath her skin like a bruise that wouldn't fade. She told herself she wasn't waiting, out for another knock. Not for another apology. Not for a man who'd shattered her trust with a paper smile. But some mornings, when the light came in just right, she still reached for it before her phone. Just to be sure it hadn't changed. Just to be sure he hadn't taken the words back. He hadn't. That was the problem. Nathan didn't chase her after she walked away. He didn't send flowers. Didn't call. Didn't ask Lily to draw pictures or leave them on the doorstep, though she offered. "Just one," she begged, "with pancakes and Pluto and us." "No, sweetheart," he said gently. "We don't ask people to come back. We show them we're worth coming back to." So he showed up. Everywhere but at her door. He took Lily to preschool every morning, even on board meeting days. He stopped hiding in the penthouse, walked instead, talked instead. He launched a grant program for single mothers trying to finish school. Quietly, anonymously. He funded a new wing at Ridgewood Library in honor of his late wife, and a second in the name of someone who helped him remember who he was. He never told anyone the second name, but he whispered it to himself sometimes. Emily Lane. Time passed like fog. Quiet, dense, hard to measure. And still, she didn't call. Not even when stars on the sidewalk, the picture book they once dreamed aloud about, hit the shelf. Not even when Lily left a pancake drawing tucked inside a returned copy of Pancakes and Pluto. Not even when the leaves began to turn again, burnt orange, rust red, just like the night they'd first met. Nathan stopped expecting her, but he didn't stop hoping. There's a difference. Then one Friday afternoon, he walked into the library alone. Not searching, just returning books. He moved quietly through the stacks, paused near the new arrivals, and froze. Because there she was. Emily, hair down, sleeves rolled, sorting paperbacks with quiet focus, just like she used to. She didn't see him at first. He almost turned around, almost walked out, but then she looked up, and their eyes locked. For one breathless, suspended second, time folded in on itself. "You're late," she said. He blinked. "For what?" She smiled. "For your second chance." Nathan couldn't move, could barely breathe. "I brought coffee," he said, lifting the cup in his hand like an offering. "Good," she replied, stepping around the desk. "I forgave you a few days ago." His eyes widened. "But I wanted to make sure you'd earned it," she added. "I didn't stop hoping." "I know." Then Lily came barreling in, her arms full of books and her voice bright. "We found the Princess One." Emily knelt to help her. Nathan stood there watching them, his daughter and the woman who had changed everything, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Steady. Later, when Lily had wandered off with a stack of picture books and the library had quieted to its usual hum, Emily stood beside Nathan in the reading alcove. "I still don't know if this is love," she said softly. He didn't flinch. "Neither do I," he said, "but I know it's worth finding out." She looked up at him, eyes guarded but no longer afraid. And for the first time, she let herself imagine something impossible. Not a perfect future, but an honest one. They didn't fall back together with fireworks or vows. They came slowly, intentionally, dinners that bled into midnight walks, Sundays in the park with Lily on the swings, Tuesdays at the bookstore, where Emily read aloud while Nathan sat cross-legged and quietly listened. They didn't set labels. They didn't chase closure. They chose consistency. And that, more than anything, was how she began to trust again. One crisp evening, after a movie night where Lily fell asleep in the back seat, Emily lingered in Nathan's driveway. The air smelled like earth and cinnamon. He stood beside her, waiting. She crossed her arms. "Do you ever think about the ending?" He tilted his head. "Of what?" "This. Us. What if we ruin it?" Nathan smiled gently. "I already ruined it once. The only way forward is through." "You talk like you're in therapy," she teased. "I am," he said. She blinked. "Wait, seriously?" "Twice a week," he said. "Court-ordered at first. I kept going." Emily looked at him. It's like I really looked. And something inside her softened. "That's honest," she whispered. "I'm trying." She reached out, touched the sleeve of his coat. "Don't stop." They weren't perfect. Nathan still defaulted to control when he got scared. Emily still flinched when things got too easy. But every time she doubted, he was there. Not with promises, with presence. He didn't say, "I'll fix it." He said, "I'll stay." Chapter 8. The day she finally said it. Autumn came slow that year, like it was asking permission. The leaves turned gently, amber and crimson, brushing the sidewalks in soft apologies. Emily found herself walking slower too, taking the long way home, letting herself linger in the in-between. She and Nathan weren't dating, but they weren't not. They existed in that fragile middle ground between what was unspoken and what was understood. And somehow it was enough. Until it wasn't. It happened on a Tuesday. She'd spent the afternoon sketching at the library's corner desk, distracted and scribbling in the margins of a donation receipt again. She didn't even hear him approach. But Lily did. "Guess what?" she whispered, sliding beside Emily like she was revealing a crime. Emily looked down. "What?" "They made dinner, all by himself." Emily raised an eyebrow. Nathan, behind her, winced. "Technically true." "What did he make?" "Toast," Lily said solemnly. "He burned it on purpose." Emily laughed, a soft, stunned kind of laugh, the kind that escapes before your heart remembers to hold back. "I figured you might come over and rescue us," Nathan said. She should have said no. She didn't. His townhouse felt smaller that night. Not because it was cramped, but because it was quiet. Real. Lived in. Emily sat at the kitchen table, sketchbook in one hand, tea in the other. Lily was on the couch, tangled in a fleece blanket, and retelling a bedtime story with dramatic voices. Nathan leaned against the counter. Watching her, he did that now, like he couldn't believe she was real. Like if he blinked, she'd vanish again. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked. He didn't answer. Just walked over, sat across from her, and rested his arms on the table like he was ready to confess something. "I almost sold this place." Emily blinked. "Why?" "Too many memories, too many rooms that echoed." "Why didn't you?" He looked at her. "Because then I wouldn't have a place to bring you home to." The words landed like snowfall. Quiet, disarming, soft enough to melt the frost. Emily didn't respond. Not right away. She just looked down at her hands, then back at him, and whispered, "I'm scared." Nathan didn't reach for her. Didn't push. He simply said, "Me too." Later. After Lily had fallen asleep halfway through a movie, Emily lingered on the front porch. The moonlight softened the corners of the world, casting shadows on the railing and in the hollow of her collarbone. Nathan stood beside her, arms crossed, quiet. They listened to the city in the distance. Cars, wind, a faint echo of music from somewhere down the block. Then she turned to him. "I loved someone once," she said. "Before all this. Before everything. He left when it got hard, when I got complicated, when I stopped being convenient." Nathan didn't speak. She went on. "I told myself I didn't need to be loved like that again, that needing anyone made me weak, that if someone stayed, it would be despite who I was, not because of it." Nathan stepped closer. "You are not hard to love." Emily met his gaze. "You don't get to say that until you've seen all the parts of me that aren't pretty." "I'm not here for pretty," he said quietly. "I'm here for real." And then finally she stepped into him. Slowly, like forgiveness unfolding, she rested her head on his shoulder, and for a long, long time, neither of them moved. The breeze wrapped around them. Their silence breathed. And then, almost too softly to hear, she said it. "I love you." Nathan's breath hitched. He didn't rush to say it back. Instead, he wrapped his arms around her and pressed his lips to her hair and held her like she was the beginning of something he hadn't let himself hope for. And then, when the moment was ready, he whispered, "I love you too." They didn't talk about what came next. No declarations. No plans. Just mornings spent drawing with Lily at the kitchen table. Afternoons, with hands brushing on library shelves. Evenings with dinners slightly less burned and laughter slightly more often. It was slow, uneven, perfect in the way only messy, honest things are. One morning, Emily found a note stuck to the fridge. No coffee filters, burned toast again, still worth staying for. And beneath it, three stick figures under a moon. One with curls, one with messy hair, one holding a balloon. She cried in the kitchen, alone. Because sometimes love doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with a fridge note and a cartoon family. And for the first time in her life, that was enough. Chapter 9. The storm she didn't see coming. It didn't happen with a bang. It happened in a coffee shop. Emily stood in line, tapping her card on her phone, when she saw it. A glossy tabloid cover resting on the pastry case beside the register. Secret romance with local librarian. Nathan Cole, billionaire in disguise, spotted hand in hand with mystery woman and daughter. The photo was grainy, poorly lit, but unmistakable. Emily, Lily, Nathan, walking down Main Street, smiling like they had nothing to hide. Her breath left her body like a slap. She grabbed the coffee and walked out without paying. The headlines spread fast, not in the global way that made phones light up, but in the local, piercing way that made whispers follow her through the grocery store. That made her boss at the library blink too long before saying, "If you need to take some time." That made her inbox flood with emails from old classmates, distant relatives, and strangers who called her lucky like it was a synonym for gold digging. Emily didn't answer any of them. She went home, locked her phone in a drawer, and sat on the kitchen floor for hours, shaking. Nathan showed up that evening. Not in a suit, not in armor, built just himself. Hair a mess, breath uneven, eyes searching the windows like they might give him answers. Elliot didn't open the door. Not right away. When she did, he stood in the rain, soaked through again. "I didn't leak it," he said, voice low. "I swear to you. I would never." "But you knew it could happen," she whispered. He closed his eyes. "And you didn't warn me?" His silence said everything. She stepped back. "I can't do this again, Nathan." "I'll go," he said gently. "But I'll be outside, just in case." He slept in the car that night. He didn't call, didn't text, just waited, because he knew her well enough to understand. This time, there was no fixing, only showing up. In the morning, there was a knock. Emily opened the door slowly. Lily stood there, holding a paper plate. "I brought pancakes," she whispered. "Daddy helped." He cried a little, though. Emily knelt, took the plate with trembling hands. He looked past her. Nathan stood at the curb, dark circles under his eyes, a coffee in one hand. No smile, no expectation, just there. Emily looked at the pancakes, too much cinnamon, uneven edges, syrup spilling over. She looked at Lily, then at him, and something broke and mended in the same breath. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not just for the article, for not thinking how it would make you feel, for not warning you, for always reacting instead of protecting." He didn't speak. She stepped aside, and they sat on the floor, the three of them, eating sticky pancakes from a paper plate. That night, she called him. "I still don't trust this," she said. "Neither do I," he admitted. "But I trust you." They didn't pretend it was okay. They didn't fake a new beginning. They just tried again, quietly, carefully, like people who knew how easy it was to lose something real, and how rare it was to find it again. The jacket with the corduroy collar. Spring crept in like a second chance. The trees bloomed hesitantly, petals curled at the edges like they were still deciding if the sun could be trusted. Emily walked slower through the streets now, often with Lily's hand in one of hers and a sketchbook tucked under the other. Nathan no longer met her with explanations. He met her with presence. They didn't throw a party, didn't stage a proposal. There were no candlelit rooftop dinners or flashbulbs or headlines. There was just Sunday morning, and toast that wasn't burned. Lily sat cross-legged on the counter, helping stir batter while Nathan flipped pancakes at half the speed he used to. Emily sipped coffee, barefoot, wearing one of Nathan's t-shirts. "You ever think about forever?" she asked suddenly. Nathan looked up, startled. He watched her for a moment, then said softly, "Only since you walked into it." That night, Emily found something waiting for her on the table. A sleek black box, square and tied with a ribbon. She raised an eyebrow. "If this is a ring, I'm walking out." Nathan laughed. "Not a ring." She opened it slowly. Inside, a jacket, dark navy wool, tailored and elegant, except for one detail. Wearing the collar. Corduroy. Brown, soft, familiar. Her breath caught. It was almost identical to the one she'd loaned him that first day. Her grandfather's jacket, the one that had smelled like pipe smoke and stubbornness and second chances. She touched the collar like it might dissolve. "You remembered." "I never forgot," he said. "That day changed everything." Emily looked at him, tears just beneath the surface. "You don't owe me anything, Nathan." "I know," he replied, "but I want to give it anyway." He took a breath. "I want to marry you. But not for headlines, not to fix anything, not because Lily wants it, just because I do." Emily looked down at the jacket, at the stitches, the weight of what he was really offering. Then she smiled. "It's a little much for a Sunday," So is the rest of our life. They didn't plan a wedding. One weekend, they just did it in the backyard of her apartment. No dresses, no cameras, just a fishbowl with wildflowers. Lily threw petals from a Tupperware container. Nathan read vows he wrote on the back of a receipt. Emily promised nothing grand, just truth, just today, just always. They kissed under an April sky. And it was enough. Later, Lily snuck outside while the adults ate cake. She found Emily sitting on the porch, jacket folded beside her, sketching stars in the margins of a new notebook. "Are you my mommy now?" she asked quietly. Emily looked up. "You want me to be?" Lily nodded. "But only if you don't mind glitter." Emily laughed. "We'll work on that." That night, Nathan kissed her forehead in the dark. "I still can't believe I sat at the wrong table." Emily curled into him. "You didn't." He smiled. "No? You sat at the only one that ever made sense. A love worth sitting down for." They never made the news again. Not when they opened the bookstore that doubled as a reading café. Not when Emily's second children's book was released, illustrated in watercolor and titled The Table That Found Us. Not when Nathan quietly sold off part of his company and poured the earnings into community literacy programs across the borough. But that was fine, because real love doesn't need a spotlight. It needs a seat across from someone who sees you and stays. Lily grew up with pancakes and library cards and a home that never asked her to perform. She remembered her mother's face from photos, but she remembered Emily's laugh from life. She still told bad jokes at breakfast, still wore raincoats indoors, still whispered, "Don't leave before falling asleep." Even after Emily whispered back, "I wasn't planning on it." Nathan didn't stop being Nathan. He still burnt toast on occasion, still asked too many questions when he got nervous, still walked through the house late at night, checking doors like love might slip out if he didn't lock it in. But he showed up, over and over, with a note, with silence that didn't demand anything but presence. And Emily, well, she stopped flinching. Because healing, it turns out, looks a lot like trust that doesn't ask for proof. They weren't a perfect story, but they were an honest one. A man who wanted to be loved without his name. A woman who didn't believe love could still be real. And a child who reminded them both how to believe in beginnings that don't look like fairy tales. Because some love stories don't start with destiny or design. They start with the wrong name, the wrong seat, the wrong moment, and still become exactly right. Maybe your version of love didn't arrive the way you expected. Maybe it came late, with baggage, with fear, with a child in a raincoat and a plate of soggy pancakes. But if it sees you, if it holds your silence and your chaos, if it stays, then maybe it was never wrong at all. If this story made you feel something, drop a memory in the comments, a name, and a moment, a table where it all changed. Because love like this doesn't ask to be seen. It asks to be remembered.